Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queer Stories on the Swan, episode 2. Now, Christo.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, Christo, I need your opinion on something. This has been bothering me for the last couple of weeks, or ever since I got this podcast running.
Oh, okay.
Because I called the last week's episode the pilot.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And
which I need to clear something up from that.
I called it that. Yes. We'll get to that. I called it the pilot because in my head I was thinking maybe I'll call episode 1 our first guest, because this is my OCD just
Yes.
taking over my brain.
Yeah.
And just going, if it's called episode 2 but it's our first guest, that's gonna bother me.
Yeah.
But then I thought, am I being too pedantic about it? Because I'm also thinking, are the audience gonna be confused? Like, hang on, I thought last week was the first episode. so what is happening? So, Christo, do we just make this episode 2 and just
No, I agree with you. I think the first one is just like a pilot. It's just to see how we interacted, how the whole thing worked out. Yeah, it was us just introducing us. It basically could have just been the intro. Like, okay. You know what I mean?
All right. So
this is officially episode 1 because this is our whole idea, was to interview people.
Yes. Okay. So, Thank you for being that second voice.
It's okay.
I must say, I have to talk about the people. The amount of people who have listened to our show. Actually, I'm going to pull the analytics up right now.
Oh, okay.
Because Christo, we have done a lot more than I expected.
Yes.
Okay. So as of right now, I've got the analytics on Anchor right now. We've had 62 plays altogether. That's including our trailer, our deleted pilot, and then our re-upload.
Nice.
So far, because it hasn't been 30 days yet, they're still estimating the audience about 20 people, 48 unique listeners. I don't know what's the difference, but anyway. We've had 5 people listen to the trailer, 34 of the re-uploaded pilot, and before it got deleted, it had 23 plays.
Wow. Yeah.
We've had quite an audience.
We have.
We have 97% of our audience is in Australia. We've actually had some listeners from Brazil and the US, according to this.
Really? Wow.
Apparently.
It's great. We are worldwide.
Christo, I need to tell you something that I found that is hilarious.
And what's that?
I'm looking at the Anchor one, and I might have to send you a screenshot later. I might have to remind myself to do that. If you click on geographic location, it zooms out, or at least shows you not just our planet. It shows you Earth, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto.
Have we gone galactic?
We have not gone galactic yet. Our solar system, I know, I'm very disappointed. Our show has clearly flopped because our audience is only from Earth.
Lame. Boring.
I want Elon Musk to go to Mars and listen to our show.
Yeah.
I can't believe they have that on there. Someone really thought, hey,
you never know.
You never know. Like, we're pretty good. I think we're going to make it inside the solar system.
Oh, yeah.
Most of our audience is, of course, from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, because we did have people requesting that, and oh my God. That was not fun to do. It was a nightmare, Christo. I had to make an Apple ID. I had to set up a a payment method in case we bought something off it, but we're not going to.
No.
I had to talk to customer support on Anchor, who were actually very, very good. Because our episode wasn't going to Apple Podcasts, because I thought it was going to automatically distribute.
Yeah.
So in order to say that, you have to set up an account. And then I had to... Let's just say I've been behind the computer screen a lot since the episode premiered.
Well, that's what you get for being the mum.
So we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Anchor.
Yeah.
And unless someone directly asks us to be on other streaming platforms, I am not bothering going on other streaming, because
those two are the main ones anyway.
They are the main ones, so I think we're all pretty good. So we've had a pretty good start. I must say, it's been very, very good. Now, Christo, you said you wanted to clarify something.
Yes.
About the pilot.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So there's a couple of things that I got wrong. The first thing is I came out in 2007, not 2017, in case people were kind of confused. I was very confused when I re-listened to it and went, oh no, that's not right.
I didn't even hear that part. I didn't even notice that one.
I did, and I'm like, why? I was just obviously in the moment, and it just, yeah. Anyway, and also my partner was 32, not 42. I added 10 years to him. I'm so nice. But yes.
I did notice that one. I was like,
well, why didn't you say anything?
I didn't want to say anything because I knew you were like deep into the story, so I thought, oh, that's gonna be hilarious. Maybe Christo will listen and be like, oh my god.
I did.
Because it's funny. Because that's the thing with podcasts, when they're not overly produced, and now our show's not overly produced, okay? The only things I'll edit is like glaring issues.
Yeah.
Or something I'm not quite comfortable with having in there.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's very much a raw, honest podcast. And damn, this lens flare is bad. So yeah, I've only got one lamp here, so I've got a very limited lighting option. But yeah, so I didn't want to say anything because I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah. I like to say though, before we move on, we have 50 followers on Instagram.
Yes, I just saw that this morning.
And my partner was the last one to follow, so he made it to 50.
And I've got like 65 on Facebook. So hey,
nice.
We're doing pretty good so far.
We'll need to do a screenshot
pretty damn
to
well.
Post later on today.
Yes, absolutely.
So.
We deserve those gloating rights. We've worked hard enough on it.
Yes.
And so just to reiterate, if you didn't see on social media, which I'm sure most of you have, when the episode first came out on Spotify, and this was mainly on my part because I was rushing because I had to go out and I was working at Fringe that night, so I was just trying to upload this bloody episode really quick. You guys would have noticed if you're listening on Spotify, there was a 2-minute intro and outro song. That was not supposed to happen. So I'm very new to this podcasting thing. So an Anchor and how it all works. When I was uploading the episode, oh, you're right. Or did you get it?
No.
Did you catch a bug?
It's a mosquito.
Oh, mosquito.
Yes. I'm like,
mosquito. I hope that doesn't peak too much. But that's okay. I can cut that out. Yeah, so there was a part 1 and part 2 because my computer didn't have enough space to export the whole thing, so I had to split it into 2 parts. Anyway, so once I got that up there, then on like the left, when it comes to editing on Anchor, you have an option to like put music in there. Now, when I clicked on that particular song that you and I decided on, only 30 seconds came up. Ooh. So I thought, okay, it's going to be like a 30-second intro and outro. It's a bit long, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to do the whole song, which is about 2 minutes. So it's a good song. It's a great song. Like, that's
we don't need that much.
So, and then I was initially going to leave it, but then when I was doing the Apple Podcast thing, and in order to, I'm sorry, it's really annoying because in order to manually upload an episode onto Apple Podcasts, you need to set up like a subscription plan, which is paid.
Oh god!
And I was like, that defeats the whole purpose of using Anchor.
Yeah.
So I had no other choice but to do a re-upload, and that's why the initial one had like a playlist, and why the re-upload is like a real file. So. And of course, I left a lengthy message on socials saying, hey, this is what happens. I'm a dum-dum. This is how I'm
still learning.
I'm still learning, and I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the whole reason why that's happening. But anyway, thank you so much. I've had wonderful feedback for the show. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Good.
I've had a few friends say they loved it, so that's good.
Yeah. Oh, it feels so good to do. Anyway, I think we've delayed enough.
Yes.
We're going to introduce our first guest, and we are very pleased to present my good friend, Aaron Cowper. Welcome, Aaron.
Woo, welcome.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
worries.
How are you? How are you this very hot day? Because it's meant to be like 40 degrees today. Yay.
I am dried out, slightly frazzled, a little bit moist in places I don't want to be. But that's
I was going to say, is that just from the weather, or is there something else that happened this morning that you want to talk about?
That's just WA. Nothing like the caffeine hasn't dried my body out yet. I'm not a mummy.
I'm currently sipping on my caffeine this morning, so.
I've had like 4 coffees.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I couldn't.
I replaced my blood cells with caffeine, so it's fine.
I can only do 1, and then I'm in the toilet for like a while. So I mean, it's so bad.
Sure,
TMI.
I feel like I should stop having full cream milk because that just seems to happen. But I like it so
that could
much.
be it. I mean,
could be
my
it.
sister can't have her coffee after like 12.
Yeah, I can't either.
No,
Yeah.
same,
Otherwise, I'm awake
same.
all night.
Well,
I can
it's
have
not.
one before bed. So
Interestingly enough, coffee in the afternoon actually puts me to sleep.
Oh,
I
Oh, yeah.
don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. My body is just very weird. I will only ever have coffee if I'm going out and I've got a place to be and I'm going to be out all day, maybe for like from 9.
yeah.
Like that's like gonna be like the latest I can have a coffee. Otherwise, I'm gonna be in the bathroom and I'm just gonna feel bleh, which is weird.
Yeah.
It shouldn't
That makes
happen.
sense.
I'm definitely an anomaly. So anyway, this is not about Christo and I. We had
No.
our episode last week. Aaron, you're our guest. It's time for you
Thank
to
you.
tell your story. So of
Sure.
course, this is a safe space. So anything you don't feel comfortable talking about, we will completely understand, and we'll do some very subtle editing. Well, apparently my editing's not as subtle as it could be at times. But it
I'm
will
just really
definitely
judgmental. That's why. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not that
that's
your
fine.
editing's not subtle. It's just I'm sitting here just being like, I can hear it.
Yep, fair enough. So, Aaron, start from the beginning.
Okay, well, before we get to that, I would just like to say I very much enjoyed the pilot episode. It was very nice getting to hear both of your stories.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
They were both obviously quite different, and
Yeah.
in some respects, I think Chris's is more like mine
Oh, wow.
than yours is, Christo.
Yep.
But I do have a very different family situation than
Yeah.
both of you do.
Mm-hmm.
So my family on both sides is they still are. They are very religious. My family like go to church every Sunday, religious. That's what I grew up as. Like as kids, we grew up, we went to church. You know, that was and that was normal for me. We were around church kids all the time. That was just how it was. I didn't necessarily so much like, I knew very early on, I knew from about 4 or 5, I didn't have a word for it.
Mhm.
I didn't have any real functioning queer word that was just like, oh, this is what I am.
Yeah.
I fit into this box, or I fit into this umbrella. I was just like, oh, okay, some people think and say some things, and that doesn't sound like me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just don't feel the way that other people feel about various other things. A good example of that is I read the Bible from cover to cover when I was like 11 or 12, and I pretty much closed it and I was like, put it to the side, and I was like, okay, so that's a thing, and I clearly don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Push it off the desk. But I spent like I was very, very introverted as a kid. I was always that quiet kid that read books. I was the quiet fat kid because I was not the world's most healthiest child. I had lots of like lung issues in particular. So
That being said, I would love to meet the world's healthiest child.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
And like
I don't think I would. I think
No.
I would probably boot them into the like oncoming traffic because I would be like,
There's got to
I
be
can't
something
relate
wrong.
to you. There has to be something wrong with you. You're gonna get a complex later on in life.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
hope it helps. But yeah, no, just so I grew up in Sorrento, so near
Oh, wow.
the beach.
Yep.
And I was not a beach kid. In the whole time that we lived there, the like 13 years that we lived there, I don't think I ever walked to the beach. And we lived in walking distance to the beach. I don't think I ever went.
Wow.
Right.
I was not a fan. I even did like surf lifesaving as a kid, which was like one of the things I picked up as like an excuse not to go to church. It was like, oh look, surf lifesaving is on a Sunday, and I was like, quick, any escape that I can get out. And it's like I didn't hate it, but also like I just didn't like having someone like lecture me over various things that I didn't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of my times as a youth worker at the like a youth volunteer, teaching the kids up in Sunday school, essentially just doing like mini lesson plans.
Yeah.
Is essentially what I did.
Okay.
And I had some very lovely, like I was paired with a very lovely lady, who, lovely, sweetest woman. I've seen her recently. She's absolute sweetheart. And she was just like, we worked really well together. She was a new mother of like 2 kids. She had like a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old at the time.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of like, I kept kind of thinking, you know, I'm going to have to find a way to communicate this to my parents somehow.
Yeah.
That I don't want to be here. That was the first thing I remember. Is I first remember being like, it wasn't at the forefront of my mind. Like the queerness wasn't at the forefront. It was the I don't want to be at church.
Yeah.
Was at the forefront. But my entire childhood was just absolutely saturated with it. So like my mum's family, all of them go.
Yeah.
All of them go to the same church, and everyone goes to the same church too. All of them go to the same church. My dad's family, everyone except my dad's eldest brother's family goes to church.
Oh wow.
Both of my nan, my nan and my grandma are both priests. And
my
both do
gosh.
like funerals and everything.
Wow.
And so is my uncle. My dad was also a youth pastor. Like,
wow.
lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Jeez, surrounded by it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So very
and
knee deep inside the church. Yeah.
knee deep. And anyone who tells you that if you think of any like churches that aren't necessarily culty but have bad like homophobic like practices, that is the Salvation Army, and that is what I grew up in. I grew up in the Salvation Army. It's very they come off as very much as like a charity, and yes, they do charitable works, and for that I respect their charitable works, but internally it's very much structured like a military organization.
Oh wow.
People inside get a military ranking. Military ranking means nothing to the outside world. But it just is what it is. Everyone is like essentially like an army chaplain.
Oh my
like
gosh.
Once you hit into the ranks, and it's everyone does that. And
so they make good on the army part of the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
But it's very much a case of, oh, well, look at us, aren't we great, like, with all our charitable works, but also at the same time, like, we're not going to help you out if we actively think that what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah, and that's the opposite of charity.
We're going to actively smash your face into the fact that we think what you're doing is wrong, and if you want any assistance from us, you have to, like, give up what we don't agree with.
Yeah.
So my whole, like... And it was they went to the one in the city, the one in Northbridge, which is the big one.
I've been there.
Yeah, so that one. And the thing is, a lot of the people are, I think, especially from my parents' generation, all the people there, they're really nice people. They're really great people. And individually, I respect them. It's when you put, like, a group of them together, then, like, the herd mentality tends to take over. And I'm like... no. So I came out to my parents when I was, the Thursday after my 16th birthday.
Oh, specific.
So I'm real specific about that.
At 12:55 p.m.
It was in the morning, actually. I woke up.
Oh, okay.
I told my mum before I went to bed the night before, I said, Mum, can you wake me up early in the morning before Tegan's, my sister, and before my sister's up, so that I can, because I want to have a talk with you and Dad about something. And in hindsight, I pretty much I was just like, meh, I have to get this out of the way. I didn't do the full-on, like, bag packing thing. I didn't think about the worst case scenario. I was just like, I need to say it.
Yeah.
It needs to come out.
Yeah.
And the whole thing that got me on that, the whole realization is I had a friend and I were talking over MSN, good old MSN days.
Wow, I remember those days.
Yeah.
And we were talking over that, and he came out to me, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, that makes perfect sense. Like, I always knew, but then the moment he said the words, I was like, what? Like, okay, that makes, like, I fit all of those, like, little check boxes. This is, like, explains everything.
Yeah, I don't like the whole I always knew. It's like, did you?
I mean,
Did you?
like, I always knew
have a
I
hunch.
wasn't.
You can have
I,
a hunch, but don't assume you know. You know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I always knew I was not like a little typical hetero boy.
Yeah.
But what did I know apart from that?
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah.
And so when I told them, like, mum, I remember mum woke me up and she was not happy to be that awake that early. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. She was not pleased
No.
because we lived a 20-minute drive away from my school. So she had to wake me up early so that we could have this little conversation. She
Yep.
was not pleased. She was just kind of like, why have you done this? This is a terrible idea.
Oh.
And so I told them, I was like, Mum, Dad, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I'm gay. I like boys. And my parents, not even kidding, did the most stereotypical movie trope like reaction where they were like, come sit down on the bed. Please tell us what makes you think this.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
was like, and like I remember going through some really bull reasons. Like I was just kind of like, I'm not necessarily sure. Like
Yeah.
these were like reasons I was just kind of rattling off my head because I just accepted. Like I expected them to be like, oh, okay. I didn't expect them to ask me, why do you think this?
Yeah.
I just like, and obviously now I would be like, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I
Yeah.
just need you to like accept this. But admittedly, they took it really well. They did take it
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a huge blessing, which
Yeah.
is a word I don't use very often.
Yeah.
Must have been that good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember the one big thing that stuck with me after that is they said to me, don't tell your sister.
Oh.
They said, don't tell Tegan. We don't want her to find out. We don't want people to find out. Like, because I obviously I was 16. I was in year 11. That didn't really matter. My sister is 2 years younger than me. And then they were like, we don't want her getting bullied at school for it. I get it. But also as a person, if I was in this situation, I would have been more concerned about me getting bullied for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It was you who came out.
Yeah.
and luckily for me, I was never bullied throughout primary school or high school for being queer. Even once I came out at school and it was public knowledge, I was never bullied for that. I was just bullied for being the quiet, short, fat kid.
Oh.
And it was always like, oh, well, Aaron can't play sports. Aaron's quiet. Aaron just like sits in the back and does nothing. Like, and it was never really like overt. Like, it wasn't so much people like pointing me out and being like, you're a specific example of this. It was always like exclusionary bullying.
Yeah.
That was much more of what it was. And like, in hindsight, I don't care now. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't talk to very many people from my high school. I still talk to two of my best friends I went to high school with, and they are arguably probably the most beautiful human beings. I think they're absolutely wonderful, and I would not change a single thing about them. They've been with me through pretty much like everything. I've gone through very many changes since then.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I related to from Chris's story is the post-realization dating thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a lot. Like, I went around a lot because my whole family is made up of people who, like, all of my aunts and uncles, my parents, my grandparents, they all met each other early on.
Yeah.
They all started dating when they were like 14, 15,
Wow.
got married at like 20.
Oh my gosh.
At like an early age. Like, my parents got married later, and they got married at like 22, but they started dating at 15.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So like, that was the thing that I expected of myself, is to find someone early on and be like, hey, this is it.
Yep.
We're going to be together forever,
Yep.
and we're going to live this perfect life and be happy.
Yeah.
And I came to realize, well, it took me a very long time to realize that isn't how it was going to happen for me necessarily.
Absolutely. Actually, I'd just like to interject for a second. Sorry. That's still kind of continued now. Like, yes, some people are getting married like later on now that, especially now that same-sex marriage can happen here legally. You still have quite a few people that get married and stuff early on, and there's still kind of this expectation that you're going to meet someone you're young, whether it's in high school or just slightly past high school. Like that's still like the general thing. That's just societally wise, if that's a word, still kind of enforced. Well, not enforced, but like that's still implied that that's the normal thing to do, right? And it's still isn't it? Well, not funny. Well, no, it depends on your perspective, but how it's still kind of carried over, not necessarily the pregnancy thing, I don't think so, but it's still the expectation of getting married young and then comparing yourself to other people because you're not married. I'm 27 this year and I've only like dated people. I've never gotten close to like getting even close to the marriage thing, but it's not really a bad thing because we're all having our own journey.
Exactly.
And and society doesn't often promote the individual journey, but that's ultimately reality-wise, that's what it is, and we shouldn't be feeling bad for it. So,
like in my situation, like I've been with my partner for 9 years now. We're not married. It's in the cards, but it's not like it has to happen.
It's on the table, but you don't have like
all my friends and that I see on Facebook and that are already married and been together a few years, and it's like why rush?
There's no rush.
It's just a piece of paper.
Exactly.
One stressful day and a piece of paper. Woo.
A nightmare of a day. People are like, it's the best day of my life, and I'm like, no.
After they say that.
They're like, oh, I'll have these memories and treasure them forever, and I'm like, until the divorce is finalized, and you're like losing half of your assets.
You shady boy, love it.
So I remember I had my first like experience with another man before my year 11 chemistry exam.
Like the day before, or like
no, like right before, like a couple of hours before.
See, like chemistry before chemistry.
I was gonna say, is that like your chemist preparation chemistry test? Like, hey, let's do some real chemistry before we go and sign a bunch of forms.
Literally, I remember walking into the exam, and afterwards, one of my mates came up to me and said, did something really good happen to you, because you came in with like the biggest smile on your face? And I fully was like, oh my god, he's the one, blah blah blah. No, he was not. He was not. He was that was not a thing. And like,
was it because that was like your first experience, and that being in high school, meaning like you thought that was like the only option that you have? Because that I had a similar thing too. Like this person that I tried to hook up with at school was definitely not right for me. Definitely not. But he was the only one that had attraction to men and was open about it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that's my only option. But
absolutely.
I'm not gonna lie. When you said your mate came in, is like when your mate was like, oh, you just came in with the biggest, I thought you were gonna say something else. But I'm glad it was smile.
Well, my mate's really well, he was really innocent. I don't know how innocent he still is, but he was a Mormon back then. So he was just what happened to you? And I was just like, I cannot tell you. That is the terrible idea. I'm not telling you.
I was enlightened.
I was like,
you can say that.
But like looking back now, I was the only out kid at school. The mate of mine that came out to his family, who told me, like came out to me and gave me the realization, came out to his family, I think a few weeks later after mine, and his family kicked him out. We had the common ground of like both of our families were fairly religious. And his family just straight up was just like, we're kicking you out. Wow. We don't want you here. So he ended up moving out and moving in with a friend of his, and he had to go to a completely different school. So I was at the time the only one. Obviously now I look back at like everyone who I went to school with, and I'm like, look at Joel coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
I know, it's like, oh, now you're doing it. I was doing it before it was cool, and when it was edgy. Yeah, I know.
Exactly. Like I had one of my friends the other day say to me, he was like, you were my, like, when we were growing up, you were my queer inspiration, because you were like, it was you.
Yeah.
And there was nothing else.
Well, that's sweet.
And I was like, that's really sweet, but also you chose a terrible role model. Like,
because you're the only example.
Yeah.
When we've got the only example in high school, we tend to be drawn to that, good or not.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, as you were saying on the pilot episode, when you like, we had no like visible queer role models anywhere. And that was definitely doubled down for me, because you didn't even talk about it. Like it just didn't get brought up ever. Like for the first time, I think that was also a reason why I didn't have a word for it for so long, is because for the first like 10, 11 years of my life, I didn't even hear the vague hint of the word, like of any queer adjacent words. It was just like, the whole thing was, it wasn't even like an expectation. It was just like, you were going to get married, you were going to have kids, like this is what everyone does. So you were also going to do this.
And if you didn't, like, then you were a failure on society.
But so I will admit, in my my late teens, early 20s, I got around a bit. Like I got around the city a fair few times.
Hey,
you got to experiment.
A lot of people do that. A lot of people do, and it's liberating.
It's now like pop culture to do that.
I mean, I probably put my mum through, like, mum was like, she was fully like totally fine. She was like, yeah, you're queer, that's fine. That is what it is. It's just like, that's fine. The part she didn't like was me going around like to guys' places for whatever, and she was just not on board for that. And I remember, I think it was my third boyfriend gave me a hickey, and she was livid. She she was so mad. I think it's probably one of the angriest times I've ever seen her, because also my mom's very prim and proper. She's very much like, it's my family in general is very much like, you know, if you keep up appearances, and anything that happens behind closed doors happens behind closed doors.
I was going to say that sounds like I was going to say that doesn't sound like the religious side. That sounds more like the class and the way you present yourself and be professional.
My parents
totally get that.
It's definitely doubled down by the religion, though. Like, if you were fighting at church, you don't let people know that you're fighting. Like, you could be having
fighting,
the
right?
You could be having the world's
Sorry. I thought you said farting. I'm sorry.
I mean the same thing.
I mean that's more like an unspoken rule. But...
Yeah, just a little bit.
Sorry. Immature man over here. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But it took me another 4 or something years after that to tell mum that I was an atheist. So, I
feel like that would have been worse.
Coming out to her was comparatively easier than telling her that I was an atheist. And like, my mum full on broke down and cried when I told her I was atheist. Like, she was like sobbing. And that, like, I understand, like, as a rational human being that understands the thought process, I get why she's crying, but also I was like, I haven't changed. I've always been this way.
I guess. I mean, I don't have any religious things in my family. I didn't grow up in the church. I've barely been inside of a church. It feels weird when I do go inside one.
That's a blessing.
But I can understand if you're surrounded by that, since birth in your family, when you've been told a specific way to live, and then you have the opposite side that does not agree with anything regarding that. It's very easy to grow up and being told that they're wrong, that they get vilified. I personally do not have a faith. Okay, I personally do not have one. Like, I'm totally up with people believing whatever they want to believe. Just don't vilify minorities and people who you don't like and tell them that they're evil. That's when I draw the line. I'm like, no, I don't have to respect your beliefs when you do something like that. Otherwise, fine, go ahead and do what you want. I'm not going to stop you. I can't physically can't. But
I believe in like a Marxist version of like belief. Like I understand that sometimes people need to believe things to get them through the day. You need to believe something to get you through the things that you do not understand and that you can't escape.
Of course.
Like, for example, if you have cancer, sometimes you need to believe that there is someone else giving you a reason for having this because it's inescapable. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yes, of course.
Personally, I don't approach my problems that way. That's just me. But yet again, I draw the biggest line is when I draw like anyone who is religious and doesn't push on other people has the biggest respect. Like I give them the biggest respect because I was always raised to stay in my own lane. Like if you don't agree with something, unless you are like you are actively seeing something that is awful being committed in front of you, stay in your own lane, mind your own business.
Yes.
Like unless
completely
you can save someone from imminent danger, do not be like sitting there interfering in other people's business.
It's none of your business.
No.
Exactly.
People have their own journeys and we just need to respect it as long as they're not using that to interfere with other people's journeys. Fine. And I know that's much easier said than done. That can sometimes be a bit blurred. I know that there is like, did you in your family or something, again, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but was there a whole like you need to save people because there's the whole trying to save people from damnation? Was there that kind of mentality?
There's an underlying theme of that in, at least in my experience of the Salvation Army, but it's never explicitly stated.
Right.
It's more of a like, let's just guide people who are lost back. More than we need to actively save people.
Which is definitely something I can agree with more. If like they don't have a purpose, then they can suggest, hey, maybe you could do this. But that's entirely up to them. Like don't tell them that they're wrong or they're going to be punished for not doing that. Because I can't understand why people think that's okay.
Yeah, don't beat them with the bad stick.
Yeah.
Like point at the paths, but don't beat them at the bad stick if they choose the path that you don't want them to.
Exactly.
So, but it took me I was a serial dater. I will admit that. I used to I would hop from one relationship to the next.
Serial dater, I love it.
I was a serial dater, and I would give my everything. Like I would be like, especially because I would see my parents' relationship, and my parents' relationship was not so much it was my expectation to have, have the sort of relationship where it just, at the end of the day, no matter what's happened, everything is fine.
Yeah.
Like you will work through it, you will communicate whatever you need to do. And my mum is very much a sort of person that she just does a lot of things to make things work. She will do anything to make things work. She does so much housework. She does all of this. She works as well. Excuse me. And she will just do whatever it takes to make things work. And that's just how she was raised.
Yeah.
And it's not like my dad doesn't do, my dad works full time. My dad has worked full time since he was 17. He's worked in a government department since he was 17.
Wow.
So he's like,
wow.
He needs to leave is what he needs to do. My dad is not the sort of person to, and it's a big trend I've noticed a lot when I talk to my friends who also work for various other government departments, is now you don't get rewarded for doing the work. You get rewarded for saying, hey, look, I did this. And whether you did it or not, you get rewarded for putting your hand up and saying, yeah, that was me. And my dad is the sort of person who just knuckles down and does things.
Yeah.
If you give him something, even if he knows he can't achieve it, he's still going to try.
Yeah.
And he's still going to get it. He's still going to work hard and stress over it and do the best he can, even if it's not his work.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what your dating situation is like whenever you go date someone.
I very much used to take that ethic, like that work ethic, to my relationships. I would be like, because part of me does believe that if two people, and the key is that if two people or any number of people want to make something work, as long as you both, like, y'all want to make it work, it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all are willing to put the effort in. The difference is the moment one of you wanes, then it falls apart.
Yeah.
Yes.
The moment one of you wanes and stops communicating and trying, then that's when it falls apart.
Wanes and doesn't accept help and try and fix that connection. Yes.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And I've always believed that, like, and it's the sort of thing I pulled from various things, watching like arranged marriage couples in various other parts of the world. I've been like, look, they make it work, and they may not be in love, like it may not be love at first sight, traditional love, but they see, like, they have a loving relationship, they make it work, they're happy. So who am I to trample on how they've done it? Like, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, I got into some not so wonderful situations. I think it was a big thing, especially in school. No one taught me as a teenager that you can retract consent at any time. I was not taught that. We were all obviously taught that consent, actually, now that I think about it, wasn't even really brought up. It was just kind of like, it was like, oh, like, you know, say no if you don't want to do something, but it was never really like, it was never a sit down lesson being like, this is what consent is. You actually have to, like, say yes, say no, blah blah blah. So I would often get into a situation and be like, oh well, I drove myself here, or, you know, I put myself into this situation, so I have to see it through. Which is a bad mindset for your own mental health.
I 100% agree. Completely.
Kiddies, listen to Uncle Aaron. He's old now, and
also listen to the mum of the podcast, because the mum has gone through that too. So I second that. I know of that. I put myself into that situation easy tens of times, like in situations like that. I know of two in particular that were particularly bad, that would, you know, unfortunately, by legal definition, count as sexual assault.
Oh wow.
And, you know, I do, you know, put my hand up and say, you know, look, I'm not going to victim blame myself, but I did, like, I was in those situations, and if I'd known better, I would have taken myself out, but I didn't know any better. I thought, I'm here, I have to see it through. And that is like, it took a while for that to affect me, but I've always had self-worth issues. I had self-worth issues as a kid. So my self-worth issues were very much tied to what people said to me and how people responded to me. So if someone said to me, like, if someone was like, oh yeah, come over, blah, 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 I was like, oh yeah, self-worth has just gone up like a point or something. And if someone was like, I don't know, no, I don't want to see you again, it's like self-worth plummets down a hole. And like, I'm still working on that. Like, it's a constant thing that I have to work with. Mental health is a constant struggle for for a lot more
everyone.
People.
Mental health is such a beast.
Then I think that, like, and I would say I've always been depressed to a degree. Always. I got sick, very, very ill 7 years ago. Which Chris knows. I got very, very ill 7 years ago, and my mental health hit a like metal wall and plummeted down like it was like a cartoon Acme show. Like, I fell into a pit hole. It was awful. It's disgusting. I'm still working on that. But the fact is, I've made huge strides that when that originally happened, I never thought I would be able to do. I was like, oh, I can't climb out of this hole. This hole is never, like, I'm stuck in this hole. And I like every now and then I can peek out of the hole now, and I'm like, look at you go.
Yeah.
And that definitely was influenced by my relationships as well. I had a lot of relationships. I had relationships where people would accuse me of being unfaithful because I wasn't necessarily as like visibly intimate as they wanted me to.
Yeah.
I remember I had a relationship when I was, when I think I was 19, where the guy went away for a little bit on a holiday, and he came back and he said that I'd cheated on him with a friend of mine, and I was like, okay, but what, like, where are you basing this? And I found out later on that the guy told him this, and I was like, okay, but where did you pull that from?
Yeah.
Like, what reality did you pull that from?
Yeah.
We never came in physical contact with each other. Like, where did, like, I don't understand that. But, and there's lots of things. Like, I had a friend, an ex of mine who we're friends now. At the time, he thought I was being unfaithful to him because I had classic, like, first world, like, modern gay man where I didn't let anyone see my phone.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And that was just a holdover from having like being scared that my parents would look at my phone and be like, oh my God, you horrible child, like, living in sin, horrible child.
Yeah.
My worst relationship, I'm going to admit names here just to be safe and admit some of the details, which is fine. And it's not this guy's fault, even remotely, for how the situation turned out.
Yeah.
We started dating. Stuff went down. There was undiagnosed mental health issues, and I thought I could not even necessarily fix him. I thought I could weather the storm.
Yeah.
Things got better. And the problem is things didn't get better.
Yeah.
No.
And I spent 4 years of things not getting better. And then they just started to get worse. And we had numerous conversations where I said, look, you aren't dealing with this properly. All you're doing is drinking. You're drinking with this to deal with your problems.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a healthy way to, like, deal with it. Lots of people don't think it's a healthy way to deal with it.
No.
I can see it's not a healthy way to deal with it.
Well, it's not.
No.
Because I was like, all you're doing is, like, drink until you throw up all the time. And, like, that's not a healthy way to deal with your problem.
No.
And eventually just reached a tipping point where I was 21 and I had moved out of home. And he was in my bedroom. I put him to bed because he'd passed out drunk. I put him to bed.
Yeah.
I came in after I'd said goodbye to all my mates and stuff, and I walked in and he'd thrown up, like, as he was rolling in bed. So it had gone from one side of the bed to the other. And I was so mad. I shoved him in the shower, obviously made sure he didn't, like, choke on any water, because obviously he was still unconscious. I showered him, got him clean, like, just kind of fury through all of my bedding and everything into the laundry, drove him back to his mum's place, left a note on the counter for his mum saying what had happened, and just saying, look, like, I brought him back because this is what's happened. I've cleaned him up, made sure that, like, he's not still sick.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I thought I was doing the responsible thing. And I didn't get an apology, I don't think. To my memory, I didn't get an apology. And I ended up breaking up with him, like, a couple of days afterwards, because I was like, you're not changing.
Yeah.
Like, you're not making any attempts.
Yeah.
And I think his mum still hates me, which is fine. Like, she can hate me. That's fine. I got to look out for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was really the first time I realized, I think, that I needed to look out for me. And,
Yeah.
because no one else is going to look out for you unless you find an utterly selfless person who loves you more than life itself. in which case that's great, but you aren't going to find that person just on the side of the road.
No.
They don't just appear.
It can take a long time. And
Yes.
some don't feel like they ever find that.
Yeah.
So
Exactly, yeah.
really, you have to kind of do that yourself.
Mm.
And that can be hard.
Yeah.
I don't expect that of anyone. Like, I don't expect that of my fiance to put me first.
Mm-hmm.
I may put him first sometimes to be like, because I know sometimes his needs are more important than mine.
Mm.
But I don't expect that of him.
Yep.
To be all the time being like, okay, what does Aaron need? What does Aaron need? What does Aaron need?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Like, our brains work different. We're different people.
Mm.
Yeah. Tell us about your fiance, because now you've dropped that bomb.
Yeah.
By the way, hi, I'm your friend. Why have I never heard this fiance word before? Did this just happen?
Ding, ding, here we go.
No.
that
I would have
happened
remembered
last
that.
year. So that was June.
Girl.
Wow, Chris, you've been out of the loop.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
right?
I'm a self-absorbed piece of crap sometimes, but I mean,
you have been busy, but like,
it's no excuse.
all right, okay. Anyway,
I also haven't done the official announcement on Facebook or anything because we don't have matching rings yet.
Oh yeah.
So that's another reason why you might not know.
I mean, you put it in this podcast, so are we counting this as the official announcement?
Well, it may as well. But
well,
anyone who listens to this because of me probably already knows anyway, so it's fine.
Okay.
Doesn't bother me.
Well, first of all,
Thank you.
congrats on getting
Yes,
hitched.
congratulations.
So now that you've mentioned your fiance, you've got to tell us about your history. Like, how did you meet? Yep.
So we met off of Grindr because, we are a Grindr love story.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
and they are rare, apparently. I was on Grindr for 2 minutes and then I got too freaked out. I was like, nope, can't do it. Sorry.
No, they are really rare. We have been dating for 7 years. 7 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So he also does use non-binary pronouns, but so I may slip in between those. But he is a beautiful, 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 beautiful human being. Mm-hmm. He stuck with me all through my illness, which I can only imagine was incredibly terrifying. Watching me go from like a fully functional, like force of nature human being to someone who collapses at the drop of a hat and smashes his head on the side of the table. But as someone who had to live it and live through that, I can only imagine how terrifying it was to watch me live it.
Yeah.
Especially the first year. The first year I barely moved from bed. I had to move back. We had to move back home with my parents because I am like I when it comes to relationships, I tend to know very early on whether it's going to last or not. Mm-hmm. So I do like the lesbian tier thing where I move someone in after like 2 days. But admittedly,
we need to get a lesbian in on the show to confirm that. But, yeah.
I just don't stop talking to someone once I'm engaged with someone. I just don't stop talking. So I find out very quickly whether or not someone is like worth my time or not.
Yeah.
And some people find that annoying. Some people don't, clearly.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I moved him in, I think, after like 2-3 dates. I don't know, I can't remember. And he was living with me, and so we had like a really good 6 months there. Admittedly, my old place, it was just like a pack of sardines. There were so many people in that house. No, it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, we moved back in with my parents, which prompts to him. He had enough trouble living with his own family just because his family had some abrasive personalities and traits, which he does also share. It's not like he's the like most warm and squishiest person on all like facets of his personality. No, he shares some of those like stubborn, abrasive personality traits. But those are things like, I love those things about him. Like I love the whole picture. I love the good things. I love the bad things. I love the like neutral things. I love the things that are, like interesting anecdotes.
Yeah.
And I'm very much that person when I don't like specific things in like people. Like it's not like people don't have to fit a checklist for me of this is what I like. When I like someone for whatever reason, I'm like, I like you because of this, and I may dislike someone else because of that exact same thing. But if it works for them, I'm like, it works for me.
Yeah.
But he is a lovely human being. He worked in retail for like 10 years, hated it. And then he now works in healthcare. I'm not going to be too specific about where he works.
Yeah, of course.
But he now works in healthcare and he loves it. It's his absolute passion.
Oh, good. It must have been tough in the last couple of years, you know, pandemic and all. But
I mean, the aspect of healthcare he works isn't too touched by the pandemic, but also at the same time, if it hits where he works, it's going to spread through their life, you know, bubonic plague in the Middle Age.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. He loves it there. He finds it tiring. He finds it exhausting, but he finds it completely worth every second he spends there.
Yeah.
And he, he did actually propose to me once before. So this is actually his second proposal. He proposed to me once before, kind of like rolled over in bed, and he was like, so we've been dating for like 6-7 years. Oh, actually, I think it was 5 at that time. He did that. He was like, we've been dating for a while. I was like, yeah, and he was like, so we should probably get married sometime. And I was like, that's it. That's
is that your proposal?
That's your grand proposal. Hello, where's the whimsiness?
I was like, please try again when you at least have a ring. Like,
I mean, hey.
He did try again last year in June, and like, it's not like I expected this like whole get down on one knee thing, because he's not like a get down on one knee. I have this speech prepared. Like sort of person. I would do that. But then that being said, I did say to him when we started dating, I was like, if marriage is ever on the cards, you are going to have to propose to me. Otherwise, like, it's
never going to happen. Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I will just keep putting it off until I find a more perfect time.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that there was ever a more perfect time, really. But my brain will do that. And he just kind of like, we were in a hotel to celebrate the fact that he'd gotten his grad program. And he was just kind of like rolled over. He did have a ring this time.
I was going to say, if he had the ring, then that must have been successful then.
He rolled over and he was like, do you want to get married? And like gave me the ring, was like, do you want to get married? We were just laying in bed, so it wasn't anything like fancy or anything, but I was perfectly happy with that. Do I like to make fun of him for it? Absolutely. But that's because that's just who I am.
I think any proposal is just good to kind of like make fun of, you know, because it's all good fun, but it's like they are cheesy, or they can be super chill, and they're so happy you can kind of make fun of them, or like at least poke fun at them. But but that's really sweet.
I'm not me if I'm not like literally taking the piss out of him about like anything he does. He makes me laugh so much. He is stupid silly, which is one of my uniform traits for like attractiveness in a guy. Stupid silly.
And I think same.
I got that from like growing up around my dad. My dad is an idiot. Like, my dad is so dumb. Like, the stuff he does, like, my prim and proper mum will be sitting there and my dad will just decide that something she's done is ridiculous. And he will just parody it for like a week.
Oh my God.
On end. And it'll be the dumbest thing. It's not even remotely intelligent. Like, it's not even dad humor when he does it. It is like infant humor. And he just thinks it's the funniest thing ever. Admittedly, my mum is one of the best, like, unintentionally funniest people I know. She just does things and I'm like, how do you not realize what you're doing is hilarious right now? Like, I remember
love people
once
like that.
she dropped some pajama bottoms like down the back of the bed. So, and she'd hurt her back. So what does she do? She grabs one of those rubbish claw grabbers and like goes to grab it. And I was in the room as she does this, and I'm sitting there taking photos for my sister, just like, look at her. Look what she's doing. Look at this crazy woman. Look at this crazy woman up here in her bedroom with a rubbish claw grabber trying to get these pajama bottoms. I was like, I'm right here. You literally could have asked me to get under the bed and grab them for you, but no, this was easier for you, apparently. She is just so funny, and she just, she
that is
kills
great.
Me. She kills me, and it's just wonderful. But we are like, it is a somewhat well-known fact that even though we are engaged, we are seeing someone else, the two of us.
So you are polyamorous? Yeah.
Yes, we are polyamorous. Stephen less so. Oh God, I just mentioned his name. Terrible me. That's fine.
I'll bleep it out.
Anyway, him less so, because it just kind of like, me, I've always been like, I have a lot of love to give, as corny as that sounds. Like, I never did monogamy. For me, just never felt super right. If that makes sense. Like, I can do it, it's not a problem, but it just, like, I'm always like, this doesn't feel like how it's supposed to go for me. And I was always constantly, my entire life, being like, I would be in a relationship and I would be like, hey, I'm also attracted to that dude and that dude and that one. And that was super confusing to me as someone who only had like monogamous role models. I was like, okay, does that just mean that the relationship I have now is completely garbage? Like, am I just not that into that person? And it took me up until, I would say 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, to be like, oh, okay, that doesn't mean that. What it just means is what it says on the tin is that I'm just also into this person. Doesn't mean anything else. And it's just classic me overthinking things, being like,
preach. I can understand that.
All the time.
Oh my God.
So I've been seeing our other boyfriend for about as long as we've been engaged, which I will admit that was some bad timing on my behalf. I didn't communicate correctly, and being in a poly relationship is something you work on. Something communication is a must. It has to be a
definitely
thing.
It's a huge test of trust, because normally, just stereotypically, relationships are usually monogamous, and some people that can take their partner looking at someone else as cheating, or it could be like, you're not cheating until you're living with them. I'm trying to be as clean as I can with this podcast, and I'm still working that out. But there's definitely levels of like commitment and what is considered cheating. And then you have poly ones, which me personally, I don't know if I could do a poly relationship. One, because I'm not possessive, but I don't know, because I do have that sexy self-doubt.
You're a one-man person.
Well, that's the thing, because I am incredibly self-conscious, that would make me go, am I not good enough? Am I not good enough? Because you're reaching out to that other person, which I suspect is like the main thing why people, like a lot more people are not polyamorous and they're monogamous instead. So that's a huge test of trust, and the fact that you can still have that while you're engaged to someone, like you'll have a future husband, and then eventually it will be just husband, and then you'll still possibly see the other people. That's I don't know if I could do that, but that obviously works for you, and you two make it work, and that's the main thing. But
the big thing is
challenging.
It's just like, and I told my parents. I did tell my parents and my sister, like, when I did make up my mind to be like, okay, I'm going to tell them. And when I said to mom, when I told her, I was like, nobody planned for this to happen. It
Yeah.
just happened.
Yeah.
Like, and of course, like, I always, like, I had spent a while thinking about it, being like, okay, you know, like, this is a thing. Like, do we proceed with this? And it's still, like, I don't get jealous personally. It's not, jealousy isn't a huge thing for me. But I do definitely get those feelings of feeling like I'm left out.
Yeah.
And when I get those feelings of feeling like I'm left out, I get the insecure, like, am I not good enough feelings.
Yeah.
Very much a thing. But you just have to be prepared to be open and lay everything out on the table.
Yeah.
And that is whenever anyone asks me about it, I'm just like, look, you just have to say to yourself, you know, this may not be forever, but this is right now, and we're going to enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's entirely what it is. That's what I said to my mother. I said, look, I don't know whether this like the three of us are a thing forever.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the three of us are a thing for the rest of the year. I don't know whether the three of us are a thing for, like, you know, a week from now. But what I do know is the three of us are for now.
Yeah.
And for as long as it works, and for as long as it's giving us, like, as long as it's giving more than it is, like, taking away.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Not that it really takes away anything, but more, the more, but like, as long as it benefits us more than it doesn't, then I'm going to keep it going.
Yeah.
And it just, I mean, I've had a lot of people ask me about it. It's even some of my straight friends have asked me about it, and they've been like, hey, you know, like, I think that might also be, you know, me as well. And I'm like, hey, you need to have this conversation though, because it's not a road you can go down with yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people who are in, like, who are in or have had poly relationships, and it has been, you know, like, they date someone and they also date someone, but the three of them aren't a unit, it's the three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were very we'll go with lucky. Lucky is a good term for it. We were very lucky in that all three of us meshed that well. From pretty much straight away. Like, I started dating my boyfriend, and then the fiance, like, they had like a one-on-one moment with each other while I had friends over one night, and he was comforting him while he was having an anxiety attack, and they just really, really connected over that.
Yeah.
And he was just, and that's where the three of us became a thing.
Wow.
Like, it just happened.
Yeah.
And it's not like we sat out and we were like, I'm starting to start recruiting like little promos so that we can go start a little party out in the hills
and rule the world.
Like,
I totally joined.
doing that. Yeah, like, as much as I would love to pull resources so that we can buy a big mansion up in the hills, I have my hands full with two.
Like, literally.
And they are the same person. They like to tease me about this constantly, in that they are exactly the same person, to the point of which they're like glasses subscription, like their eyes are pretty much the same. So they can put on each other's glasses. And I'm like, I hate you two so much. Just so much.
You got two of them. This is what you're risking.
And they always point it out. They're like, why did you pick two of us? And I'm like, I don't know. Don't ask me. I
pulled you from the same batch.
Yeah, ask past me.
Yeah.
And like my fiance is 13 months older than me. So and our boyfriend is 24. Not that you would know it, because he sounds like he can be as equally as silly as my fiance can, but like, he has some real life experience. He just, like, there is a lot of stuff there that I'm like, you've been through some stuff, but also he's been really lucky to have like a really receptive really loving immediate family.
Yeah.
His mum is probably one of my favorite like human beings on the face of the earth. I think she is I think just like she is aspirational goals to me. Is just like, if I was ever to be a parent, I was like, I would want to be a combination of my mother and your mother. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Because that's just who she is. She's just a loving human being. And anyone who comes into their house, that they're accepted for whatever. It doesn't matter. And you need a place to stay, that's fine. Like, admittedly, obviously, there are, like, you know, there is some fine print there being like, as long as you don't like throw stuff around the house and completely destroy the house and generally ruin our lives.
They're for good intent, not
yeah. If you need a place to stay, come and stay. And like, I know a number of friends that he's had have come and stayed for him for a while because that they needed a place, and she was like, yeah, that's fine. Just and she's just a loving human, like a loving, beautiful, accepting human being. And I think that's honestly, it just, if more Christians in the world were like how they preach, not that she's religious, but if more Christians were like that, which is exactly what they preach, then the world would be a better place. As a whole. Because at the end of the day, my story always comes down to religion. Always.
And like, just there's always been this kind of, it's not even a war, but it's always been these differences, especially in our community, where even now, just recently, the City Point was it college in Brisbane? Like that whole controversy about signing an agreement to say, hey, these queer people and homosexuality is a sin and everything. You're wrong. Like, you have to sign that in order to get an education.
My God.
Unfortunately, I would love world peace one day, and I don't think that's going to happen. Because humans naturally are always going to be up against each other. Always going to be the alpha. And I was talking about this last week, but
humans always have to find an outlier so that they can bond together against the outlier, whether the outlier is a single person, whether the outlier is a group. Smaller groups of people will always push together and be like, well, we don't like such and such. We don't like such and such. And you can look at it through numerous points in history. Happened a lot of the time to Jewish people in Europe. Constantly
absolutely.
To Jewish people in Europe. And obviously the biggest example of that is the Holocaust. It's not because humans are evil. It's because that's just how our brains function. And we have to get beyond that to move beyond that, like beyond our instincts, and become better people. But I do question seriously how the degree to which people will be able to do that. Because for every step we seem to make, as whatever level of society you want, whether it's a nation, whether it's the world, whether it's, you know, even just your local council, every step we seem to make to being more accepting and more inclusive, an outlier always seems to appear that is more like regressive.
And I think that's always going to happen, or at least it's going to remain part of us for a very long time. However, that does not mean we should forget about what we have achieved as society.
Exactly.
Let's always celebrate the progress and the achievements that we've had. But you know, we can't forget about our history, and that's very relevant with queer history. And I would love to get more into this with like an older person in the queer community. I've got one in mind, but anyway, that will work another time. But you know, we have to remember our history, and we have to learn from it, and come together as a community to face those kind of problems. And I think that's overall, I think it does happen, but there's definitely a lot of things that stop that from happening more often, if you know what I mean. And
a lot of it is just simple things, just like language. A lot of people can't meet together on the same platform because people aren't sure what language they should use and aren't sure what language is acceptable. But also at the same time, if you have strong enough of will and strong enough intention, and your intention and will is coming from the right place, language doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you will find a way to get the message through.
Yeah.
No matter how different the language, what language barriers there are, whether it's a content, like whether it's an actual physical language barrier where you don't speak the same language, or whether it's a contextual or generational barrier. I remember seeing something about. I remember seeing just like a video about. It was this. I think she would have been in her like 30s, I would say, talking about, you know, like queer elders and the names by which they identified. And it's like, yes, it's all well and good that you wanted to, like, you don't want to use these terms anymore to identify yourself by, but also at the same time let queer elders identify by whatever terms they want to.
Exactly.
Which is yet again my classic motto of staying in your own lane. Like, I don't mind which you call yourself. Like, that doesn't bother me. But like, also, if I can do something to make you feel more comfortable, and that should go the same way. If someone else can do anything to make me feel more comfortable, then yes, by all means. Will I throw that out there?
Definitely agree. So have we caught up with your life now, Aaron? Is there any more developments?
Let's see. Well, I have as I mentioned previously, I am sick. I'm still sick. Despite the fact that I look, you know, very radiant and not,
it's just glowing.
I don't look like a sickly, infirm, disabled person. Yes, I do still have all the use of my limbs. And I, like, if you look at me, if you see me out in the like middle of the street, you would not look at me and be like, that is a person living with a disability, that is a person living with like severe illness. Does that mean I don't have one?
No.
And I get that a lot. People look at me and go, you look completely fine.
Like, I know the feeling.
And I'm like, I am not completely fine. I'm just really good at pretending I'm completely fine. I've spent my entire life pretending to be various things. So why would this be any different? And I get it a lot when I talk to people over the phone. It's a big thing, especially from the government. The government likes to call me up and be like, how are you doing today? And I'll be like, oh, I'm not doing too great. And they'll be like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, just because I sound really cheery and really nice doesn't mean I'm not actually suffering.
Maybe I'm putting on a voice so I sound pleasant and professional.
Oh, I full on have a customer service voice.
We all do.
I worked in customer service for 9 years. I have a customer service voice. It's completely different.
I work in hospitality, so I've had to develop that. And hi, what can I get you today? It sounds sarcastic even now.
It's really bad when I answer the phone in particular. Like, like my family can't even tell me apart from my mother. It's not the same on the phone. So thank God we don't have a home phone anymore, and I accidentally put them.
I know.
Because I used to pick up the phone, and my grandma would just start rattling things up and be like, "Grandma, it's me. It's not Mum." And she'd be like, "Oh. Okay, can you pass me to your mum then?" I'm like, cool. I just know all these things about these random people I've never met in my life.
I think she'd be more worried about like, oh, I'm like, let me get some gossip about Aaron. And you're just sitting there going, I'll be sure I'll tell him that.
I never picked up the phone. I would never pick up the phone and be like, yes, this is me. Even now, I don't pick up the phone and like I don't tell people who's I'm like, if you're calling me and you know you should be calling me, you should know who's on the other end of this phone.
If not, please go away.
And so I think the biggest thing I've had to deal with is people are very social in the queer community and as a whole. And even introverted as I am, I was still a fair bit of a social butterfly. I still went to was I anxious all the time going to these things? Absolutely. But I would still go to parties. I would go out clubbing with my friends all the time.
Yep.
That has completely stopped. The moment I got sick, I stopped going out because I couldn't handle the noise, couldn't handle the lights.
Yep.
I did continue drinking. Terrible idea. Kids, when they put you on neurological medicines, do not drink. They will tell you to stop. You will probably say, no, I will be fine. You are not.
Yeah.
I continued to drink for like 3 years because I was still like, I thought I was perfectly fine. My tolerance dipped, but that I was told that yes, if you drink something, like your tolerance will dip. But they also said, please don't drink. It's a terrible idea. Don't drink. It affects your brain chemistry. And I started I remember I had a drink. We were down south with some friends, staying for a long weekend. I had a drink. I had a seizure. Because the alcohol just cut through my anti-epileptics, just cut right through them. And I was like, it was from that moment I went from being someone who was a really heavy drinker, like the idea of me casually taking like a small amount of drinks down on a weekend away before I got sick was 2-liter bottles of vodka.
Oh my God.
Like that would be all I would take. People would be like, did you bring stuff for the weekend away? I'd be like, I brought a change of clothes.
Yeah.
And
or 2 change of clothes and my vodka. And they'd be like, that's what we expect from you. Like, I was that one. And so I went from the person who drank the most for like several people that I knew to the person that drank nothing.
Yeah.
And I only ever drank socially. I never drank at home by myself. So that's the step that tells me I wasn't an alcoholic. That's but in every other way, I probably was. And I was able to cut it out cold turkey because I was like, if you don't do this, you may not wake up from your next seizure.
Yeah.
The more, and that my neurologist said to me, obviously, I said to him, I didn't go into full detail about how many drinks I'd had, but I did say I had one. Sorry. Ooh.
Are you right? Yeah, take a second if you need to. You've talked for a while. You've done well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I said, I'd had a drink. I didn't say how much I'd had because I was like, I'm not going to go into detail. You don't really need to know.
Yeah.
He probably did, but I was like, this is my private information. You can't take it from me. You drag it out of my head. Try, fight me. And
Bring a shovel.
and he said to me, if you, at the more seizures you have, and this is when he got super real with me. So the more seizures you have, the more likely you are to have seizures, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah.
Everything is just going to go downhill with each one you have.
Yeah.
Like even if all the ones you have from now on are lesser ones and you don't you wake up like that from them and you aren't even that sore. He's like, you're going to lose motor function. You're going to lose chunks of memory.
Yeah.
Things are just not, he's just like, you need to, a big thing with me, I've always been a huge driver. I like to drive everywhere. I like having the freedom to just get up and be like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Bye. And so I've had my license since I was 16.
Yeah.
And I've had a car since I was 16 too. So I went for 6 years there without the ability to drive because obviously you have seizures, you can't drive.
Yes.
And they were like, and it was just like, if you ever want to drive again, if you ever want to live some sort of a semblance of a normal life in the future, you need to stop drinking. And I was like, cool, done.
Yep.
And I wouldn't say I've lost friends, but I've lost touch with friends.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people do not see me anywhere near as much. And I don't see them because they don't make the effort to come and see me. Like, if anyone talks to me about it, I'm full on like willing to go into depth and explain everything about my various conditions and be like, this is what I have, blah, 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 blah. This is what I can and can't do.
Yeah.
Because I have a very realistic approach to it. It's just a part of my life now, and I have to deal with it. And it's probably going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And there I will get people who are just like, oh, so you can't go out at all? And I'm like, I can go out for like 15 minutes. But like, what's the point in rocking up at a club and then leaving 15 minutes later?
Yeah.
If I can even last that long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if I could last longer than that, like, it's kind of like, oh, what's the point in going to a loud, dark, like crowded, sweaty area?
Yeah.
It's really not that great.
No, I prefer to go out for dinner.
Yeah. I prefer to stay home. I've turned into like the biggest old nana, which is fine with me. I love being at home.
I agree.
Being at home is great.
Yeah.
Because I have air conditioning at home.
Yeah.
I have multiple pedestal fans at home.
Especially with the heat waves we've had recently, there's nothing better than a good air conditioner.
Yeah.
I can say that because we just had our air conditioner fixed.
I can, like, I don't have to wear clothes inside my own home unless people are here.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's some people who don't, and I find them very, very brave. I couldn't do that because my body issues. But yeah, absolutely. You know, being at home does feel quite liberating. You know,
I'm like, I can lay down whenever I want, and no one judges me.
Yep.
I can assuming I can actually get on the floor, which I usually can't. I can lay on the floor, in the middle of the floor, on the tiles, if I so chose to.
Yep.
And no one's going to be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Everyone in my house is just like, oh, Aaron's just doing something weird. That's fine. Like,
this is normal.
They're like, oh, Aaron's just laying on the floor in his underwear again. Like,
do you need anything? Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, they'll just step over me usually.
Yeah.
It's fine. They're like, do you need a hand getting up? And I'll be like, no, I got this.
Yeah.
The answer is I never have this trying to get back up. I'm like, but, and I think also because my illness is chronic pain based, it is the literal definition of an illness you cannot see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unless I'm full on like putting on like the Oscar display of like furrowed brow, like sweat pouring out of my head from pain, which I don't do. Because if I did that, I would just never stop, and my facial muscles would be like wrung. Like I would have like abs on my head from how much use my facial muscles would get.
Yeah.
And I would have wrinkles to like the bejesus.
I want to see someone with abs on their face.
Yeah.
I don't. I really don't. I just
fair enough.
I want to see that. You can keep that to yourself. But like, yeah, and I've been very like, even when I grew up, like my whole family is very taciturn. We don't display a whole lot of emotion unless it's really obvious.
Yeah.
Or unless there's like a kids movie on with like animals in it. So my sister and my mum cry
anything with animals. As soon as I see, as soon as I see anything with dogs in it, I'm like, nope, not watching this because I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. My heart's going to break.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's me who doesn't like cry. Like I can't fully form tears. Oh my God. So my eyes just get really wet, and then I'll be like, I have to brush it away because the tears won't fully form. And I'm like, get it out of my eye.
You're like, I can't actually get tears out.
It's like super damp hay fever is what it looks like.
Oh, really?
Like,
oh, no.
Are you okay? And I'm like, no.
I'm emotional.
Okay. And then the doctors will be like, do you actually cry? And I'll be like, I mean, do you mean in the sense that tears fall? And it's not cathartic at all. It's not cathartic at all. People are like, I love crying. It's so cathartic. It's just a release of emotion. Me sitting there. Like, It's not attractive. It's the ugliest form of crying. Whereas my fiance will full on, like, he has like the other day he was having an emotional moment because his brain was just like full of thoughts that he couldn't get rid of, and he was like having like full on movie single tears and go down his face, and I was like, I hate you so much. I was like, you know what I would give for the ability to express that much, like, and just shed the negative emotion physically from my body. I was like, I don't like you. I don't like you at all. Like, I look at you sometimes and you as a monster. Awful human being.
So, Aaron, if we've covered everything, I would like to ask you, do you have any advice for for those who are dealing with, health issues such as yours or something similar to it, and also handling poly relationships? So you can start with which one you want.
Sure. Okay. My biggest thing, the biggest piece of advice I can give to just any queer kid, adult, anyone.
Yeah.
You have time. And except in the very, very rare case, in which case you don't, make the most of the time you have. Do not worry so much about being like, I have to have this done by this time. I have to have this done by this time. You can, like, even if you have goals, it is okay to deviate from them slightly when life hits you.
Yeah.
With whatever.
Yeah.
Whether it's life gives you a blessing and you get towards your goal a little bit quicker, or life hits you with a curveball and you suddenly go, my life has collapsed. It is fine to struggle, and it is fine. And even I find it admirable to struggle. If you struggle and you come out the other end intact, hats off to anyone who does that. Anyone who does it and comes out a healthier and better person, even if you don't come out a healthier and better person, if you keep out and you keep on going, hats off.
Yeah.
If I go back in time and tell myself that relationships do not define you, like being in one does not define you as a human being.
Yeah.
The relationships you have with other people define you.
Yeah.
Like the friends you have, the relationships you have with your family, assuming you have a positive relationship with your family.
Yeah.
The relationship you have with yourself, that's what defines you. Not am I currently dating X human being?
Yeah.
Am I like, I've had 7 boyfriends in the past 3 years. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No one at the end of the day cares about that. And if they do care about it, they're generally not worth your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, if in regards to health conditions, I have a huge trouble like asking for help. Yeah. And I know a lot of people have problems asking for help. In particular, if you're asking for any sort of like financial assistance in regards to the government, I want people to realize it isn't so terrible to admit that you just cannot do what other people can. If you cannot if you cannot work a job, if you cannot do the 9 to 5 or even a part-time job, if you can't work, you like set yourself some realistic goals.
Yes. Yeah.
Do what you can, improve what you can, but don't shame yourself for what you cannot.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time doing that. It's a terrible idea. It's like poison in your head. Don't do it. Don't do it. Poly relationships, communication and honest communication should be your priority. Everyone needs to be comfortable. And yes, things are gonna crop up. You're not gonna be it's not gonna be happy all the time. It's not gonna all be flowers and like roses everywhere. Everyone's gonna be happy singing songs. You're gonna have road bumps.
Yeah.
The road bumps are gonna occur. you're going to have to deal with those road bumps. But when you deal with them properly and you deal with them in a healthy manner, that is, the moments after you deal with those are some of the best moments, where you can look at that and be like, we did that. We figured this out. We sorted this out. Look at us go.
Yeah.
And just be realistic in general with your expectations.
Yeah.
Don't expect more from other people than you expect from yourself. But also don't expect so much from yourself that you expect nothing from other people and you just drag yourself down.
Right.
Yeah.
Complicated.
Preach.
But life is complicated.
Oh, yeah.
And you need to take every little lesson that you can from every little thing that life throws at you.
Yep.
Because there, as far as I'm concerned, there is no meaning to life apart from living it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, no one has any extra, no one has some super secret plan that you're not keyed into. You are just here to affect the lives around you in a positive manner, if that is so what you choose, and live and experience life the best you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you can do that and your time comes up, you should be happy with what you've achieved. Doesn't matter whether you leave a lasting legacy or not, whether the next generation knows who you are. You can fade into the annals of history as far as I'm concerned, but if you have lived a good life where you have left a positive impact on people, what more do you need?
Yeah.
Exactly. Well said.
Yeah.
Very well
done.
said. Such a nice motivational speaker. Love it.
I know. It's a talent of mine.
Start a show of your own.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Called Trauma and Motivation.
Love it. I love that title.
Yeah.
Christo, do you have anything to ask Aaron?
No.
We got that covered?
I'm very here.
Well, it's been amazing. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today. I know, telling your story can be confronting, but I think you've told it in such a way that is inspiring. And you've definitely imparted a lot of lessons and a lot of things to think about for people.
Yes.
And you should be very, very proud of that.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
So, that's all right.
Thank you for coming on.
Hey, not a bad first guest, to say the least, I must say.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to our episode. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
we really appreciate your time. And until we speak next time, you and I have to catch up, clearly.
Yes, yes, we do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You don't know things about my life. I don't know things about your life now. Clearly, there's an issue.
Clearly, there's an issue.
And I'm going to have to meet you outside the block outside your house and beat you up for information or something. Not that we condone violence in any way, shape,
I was going to say, you're going to have to go. You'll have to go to my secretary first. Not that I have one.
I'm going to use some styrofoam. I'm going to come at you with some styrofoam from a packing box.
I don't get triggered by that, so joke's on you. Anywho,
neither do I. So,
thank you so much again, Aaron, for joining us.
Lovely to meet you.
And thank you for being our honorary guest for our first episode. Thank you for listening to Queer Stories on the Swan. You can leave a review for us wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can find us on our social on Facebook and Instagram.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Christo.
And
stay fabulous.